our working groups and working on those deliverables. And of course, over the summer, we also had the launch of RDG with Cotillare, and Kavya and Liam and Paul have been leading that charge. And I think we'll talk more about that next month. We'll be more ready to talk about how it applies for the healthcare context. And I know, Richard, you've had conversations on this as well, but we're not going to cover that in detail right now. But that has been the main focus for XRSI over this summer. Can we go to the agenda? Next slide. Yeah, so we will cover all the things that did get done this summer and are nearly done, because we do have a week or so of summer left. And for the things we did get done, we need to talk about how we're going to socialize them and get them in front of the right audiences. And then the last topic of conversation for today is really about the composition of our council. And one of the things I did over the summer was really go through kind of what was becoming an archive list, like or longitudinal list, and sorting out who is active, and how we want to define council membership now, from when it started, 5 years ago. So that's what we'll be covering today. So for our council, what you see here is our core council. These are everyone who has, attended meetings, shown active interest in one way or another, and I would say all contributing members. Kind of newer faces on here from the year before are Catherine in the top row, and then Vina in the second row. And Catherine came to Yale last year to work on a master's in healthcare innovation, kind of broadly. And Vina is CEO of Rehab VR, Neuro Rehab. And she's still going through the onboarding process, but she's been an active voice in building trustworthy healthcare applications in our field. And then on the bottom row with Walter, Charles, and Skip, while they're not active and kind of in our regular work, they're on call with their expertise when needed. So that kind of gives you an overall picture of where we're at, and we'll go into that in more detail. But thank you to everyone here who has actively contributed and make the council what it is today, and we'll continue to grow it. This also gives us room to bring in additional people. Okay, next slide. So to review where we're at in terms of the priorities we set at the beginning of the year, and these categories of work were really developed by the inputs of the council on where we needed to put our efforts in order to be more effective in providing resources in this area of data privacy, and also how we engage with the industry more widely. So the things we've been working on is the overall safety framework and that guideline for JMed XR, and this one is yet to be submitted. It is highest priority once I get through my current writing deadline, which we will get to, but this one is very close. The user safety education, this goes into the guidelines. So these two things are related. The difference with the guidelines publication is that once we get out this first one, we want to follow up with subject matter specific or discipline specific guides, so to put the framework in context. And for that, we do need to put together specific writing teams that have that subject matter expertise. The surgical guides has been started, but we have not fully implemented it. Last year, we applied for an NSF ER2, which is ethical and responsible research. This was our revision and resubmission. It was not awarded, so not going to continue to pursue that path to support the work. But what we have done is taken the the theoretical work that we put into that proposal and turned it into a public resource for people to apply. And this was in terms of ethical practices in XR research, the human subjects protection component. And what the grant would do is give us the funding to actually test out those new guidelines and work with multiple universities. But what we can do without that is put it out as a public resource and kind of ad hoc gather input on how well it's working. And actually, one of the first ones that picked it up was Research Institute in the Army. So then the next one, the use case research study, this was based on interview data gathered 4 years ago, Kavya, right? So at this point, the information in it is out of date, and we always wanted to supplement it with more, and did not gather sufficiently more interviews. So that project has been archived as internal research and won't be disseminated. And then as we're finishing these things, we need to have that discussion on more of the media strategy of what organizations to reach out to get greater visibility for the work we have done. Okay, Divya, go ahead. Divya, your hand is up.
I was just going to say, is that similar to what you and I were? Can you hear me? Can you
Yes,
hear
I
me?
can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you.
Uh-oh. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm having some weird problems with the camera. I was going to say, is that the use case research study not too different than what you and I were trying to do with the case vignettes in XR?
This research study was asking companies in healthcare and XR about their data use practices, their concerns, and so on. So it was a very different information gathering exercise with that.
Okay.
With what we're working on is much more focused on the BCI component
Okay.
of immersive. Yeah. Okay.
All
All
right.
right. Next slide. Okay. So what we did this summer, we went to AWE, and on the healthcare stream for MedXRSI, we had a panel kind of covering the whole ecosystem of healthcare and how this applies. So this included Bob Fine from IVRA, Mark Zhang from AMXRA, and then Brennan Spiegel from JMedXR, Cedars-Sinai, and then myself. And so we kind of represented the range of many of the ranges of the stakeholders in this and what needs you need to satisfy in order to implement within the healthcare ecosystem when dealing with these technologies. The next thing is the case studies on research ethics is now up on the Markkula Center website. The Markkula Center is Santa Clara University's Applied Ethics Research Center. And Karsh, if you can just click on that hyperlink where it says hosted. Hopefully that will work. Maybe it might need to change the share screen. Can we switch over that really quick? Yeah. Okay. So this was developed when we did the workshop for Primer, and what I've done is turned it into a structured case studies for teaching. So if you click on say that haptics one on the side panel for the case studies. Right, so now anyone can take this and run it themselves, where it's broken down into 4 parts. At the end of each part is two discussion questions. Scroll down a little bit. Keep going. This one has a long intro. Yeah, so ethical challenges. So there'll be 2 questions, and then and this gets broken down into 4 parts in each of those sections. So the overall ethical challenges, the technical analysis, the the risk assessment and then mitigation. So this gets applied to 3 different types of case studies that demonstrate different kind of latent risks to doing this type of research that are not typically captured in the human subjects review process. And then if we go back to the top where there's the link for guidelines on the sidebar, yeah. So in the guidelines here, you have a description of the assessment process, the review criteria that anybody, whether the researcher or a compliance officer, can use as a checklist in terms of what questions to ask. And one of the, I think, major shifts here in how we're framing this, different from a typical review process that may ask for a data management plan, but the data management plan is not really demonstrating the entire data flow. And for people to know where things go, it's like I'm using this level of security and it goes on a server and then it doesn't go here. But what we'd like to push for is that people actually submit a data flow diagram to show that transparency, that they know where their data is going. And then the other layer of how do you secure it and how do you control access. So I think we have a significant contribution here when it comes to the data management. And then when it comes to informed consent, kind of the advances in this area are talking about the being more specific with what data is collected for the sake of the research question and inherently by the use of the devices and the potential inferences that go along with that, especially when you add the layer of machine learning and AI. So much more detailed informed consent. And then the safety category is consistent with what this audience or this group already is well aware of, kind of, but with the research, the added layer about calibration of the stimuli or of the testing environment. So when things are being used to elicit fear or have brain stimulation involved, one of these has VR and brain stimulation, that there needs to be a safe calibration process so that you're not risking psychological and physical safety. So this is now lives here, and we'll talk about how who in your network could benefit from using this. Now you can just give a direct link. It's also been put on the XR Guild's library of resources, so it can be found there to link back to here, and we'll make sure there's a link to this on the updated MedXRSI website. So this, and then the paper that is linked to it is in revision at Frontiers in Virtual Reality. So there'll be like many ways to point people to this resource and help change the standards when it comes to XR research. So what we have here applies whether it's healthcare, engineering, social sciences, these principles will apply. So this was a lot of what happened in the last year, was developing this. Okay, all right, let's go back to the slides. Are there any questions on this before we move on to the next bullet point? Okay, let's go back. Okay, and then, sorry, go back one, please. Okay, so then the next thing that is in the following week that Divya and I have been working on over the summer, and like mentioned, we've both had really busy fractured summers, and we're not quite ready for this, but next week we're participating in a biolaw symposium, and while the paper isn't done, they still asked us to come and present and be involved in the discussion. Divya got that message this morning. And so this topic is really at that intersection between brain-computer interfaces with immersive tools. And we now see multiple examples of the integration of those two technologies. Cognition is one where that is a completely wearable device, nothing embedded in the body, everything on device. And then you have the other side of the spectrum where Synchron has implanted blood vessel based sensor systems in the brain and has that communicating with the Apple Vision Pro. And Apple has announced this last summer their neural user interface. So that actually they're setting this up to build BCIs, from their SDK up, or the operating system up. So we wanted to contribute to the conversation here at this legal symposium. And it'll take us a little longer to put together the paper because we want to put more new content in there. But in terms of talking about it, the topic for 10 minutes, I can do that, at any moment. And Divya can as well. This is something we're both well versed on. So that is September 17th. Okay, next slide. Okay, so one of the things we were working on last year on a start and stop, and Richard has contributed to this as well, in researching the regulatory landscape in multiple regions of the world. This is a sampling, not every region, but this is where we could gather sufficient amount of information to do an assessment for the US, UK, Europe, India, and Canada. And so the writing of the article got done over this summer, and what we're working on at the moment is turning it into a web resource, a blog post that we can circulate out. So Utkarsh, if we can open up the post link, so we can view that as a group here. And I know it's in the process of being redesigned by a proper designer, because that is not what I do well. But all the content is here. And so this page isn't public yet, it's still in the draft mode, but the full infographic will be linked here. And then the blog post is more of a commentary on the information in the infographic. So if we're thinking about how this is going to be used, someone can walk away with the infographic and use that as a reference to look up what policies are relevant for each of the different regions. And then the first two rows there, the dark blue and the orange, are the short form of the assessment of the maturity of the policy development, and where we think there are areas of growth. So questions that haven't been answered yet, or processes that are incomplete in the way the regulatory systems are put together in the context of medical XR. So that can be shared out on its own. And then there's the commentary. So we can scroll down. And this was written with Sneha, who's a neuroscience student at University of Washington. So she did a lot of the background work for this, drafted, and then we co-wrote and finished that off. So let's continue, scroll down. So we have a paragraph summarizing for each region that we analyzed. Let's go down. There's a figure towards the end. Okay, so this section is about kind of the readiness. Like, so in what regions is the commercial market, the healthcare system, like ready to take in these medical XR solutions, and then how aligned is in terms of like the market on that, the technology being there, number of possible users, healthcare systems ready, and then the regulatory readiness. And put that into a diagram here on those two metrics. And the judgment here has judgments we made here for the numbers is based on a rubric on this scale of low, emerging, foundational, and established. So Richard, you can see the UK scores really high in both categories, so it's a good model to follow, as well as the EU. Yeah, so this is kind of what shook out of the information gathered. If I would love it if you guys take a look and read and see if you if you find consensus with us, or you'd like to make some changes in the commentary if they don't align well with your understanding of the region, then maybe there's something we missed. There's still an opportunity to kind of add those corrections before it goes out publicly. And we can put a link. Let's put a link to the Google Doc in the minutes to the meeting so that folks can go directly to that to make the edits. In the next steps, what I've kind of advocated for here is that the inclusion of to have XR kind of the dimensions of XR technology be included in the digital health umbrella, so that it's less and less treated as a different category, but what digital health covers is broader in terms of the aspects of embodied data, spatial data, sensor data, and so on. Because the digital health regulatory schema has matured a lot in the last 3 years. So this would just kind of be expanding that out a bit more to include kind of the device component of it. That isn't always captured in digital health, which is focused on web and mobile. And then kind of next steps, kind of we need to do another layer of this at that intersection of AI and XR. So, and then all our references are there. So that's this document. Any initial impressions or questions about this resource? Good. Okay. All right. But please take a moment to look at it, and especially if your name is at the top as a contributor to this, it'd be great to make sure it has your approval. Okay. All right. We can go back to the slides. And Okavia, our target to getting this public is end of the month. Is that accurate?
Yeah, because as soon as the
We have a meeting.
visual editor response comes back, yeah, so that's what we're hoping before the end of the month.
Okay, yeah. So that kind of gives you as soon as possible on that one. It really should only take you like 15 minutes if you read through it and kind of give your critical eye. Other things related to the website, we are changing the URL, the domain. And Kavya, maybe you want to comment a little bit more about that and why we're updating the website in this way.
Right, for sure. So I don't know if people have noticed, but XRSI has, past years has acted as more like an incubator. And so the vision necessarily for this effort was really to allow the council to grow to a place where it is self-sustaining in terms of expertise as well as any kind of a revenue or financial model. So while we have not quite arrived at the financial, but it seems that we have a pretty good model for sustaining and distributing knowledge, following the principles of XRSI, but having it be just, something that founded it. And now, so MedXRSI aspires to take its own shape. So have its own board of director, have its own president, etc. So that's the ultimate aspiration. But at least we are going to segment it from XRSI and stand up a new website, which is medxrsi.org. And hopefully by 2026, we'll figure out the financial model as well as revenue, etc. It could still be linked to several of their standards, such as RDG, perhaps promotion and sales related models. But the ultimate goal is for it to be an independent entity that partners and collaborates with XRSI, just like XRSI Europe is. XRSI Europe is not an arm, it's a completely independent infrastructure that operates out of Europe. And we just collaborate with it, we provide all of the website support and intelligence and partnership support, but that's pretty much it. So that's the intention. I anticipate there are no objections to it, but this had been the vision from very, very early on, and Julia has been aware of it. So when the time comes for recruiting directors and the board, etc., obviously all the members would be given the highest priorities.
All right. So, in terms of the council here, there really is a long view of how we work together, how we'll grow as an organization, and that makes kind of defining the council membership or redefining it even more important. And then very briefly, Kavya has reached out to CMS, so our Medicare and Medicare and Medicaid services, because they put out an RFI on the management of health tech. So we're in the early stages there on whether they will invite XRSI to their working groups as they're developing policy around this. But this is basically an ask to a seat at the table. We don't know what their actual priorities are or how that will turn out, but that's an active process. Anything to add to that, Kavya?
Not much, but basically there are lots of organizations, including OpenAI, Amazon, just to name the top ones, that are essentially want to provide innovation, wink, get all kinds of insights around the data sharing aspects. The objective is interoperability. And we just want to liaise with them to provide our expertise from, when you do such things and open up all these systems to companies that are data hogs, you should be a little bit more mindful, perhaps provide standards and guidance. They are working on rolling out various working groups, and there are two specific elements that we highlighted in terms of like where we can add our expertise. So when those working groups are rolled out, when they ask for, who is going to be part of, we'll bring it back to the council and ask for if anyone wants to provide representation on behalf of the council. It can always be back and forth. It's like, we bring the bigger question to the council and smaller question on a day-to-day meeting. Somebody from here could be representative. So that's the intention, but seems like they're very busy just gathering lots of these companies coming through. Everybody wants part of it. So we just threw our hat in there just to keep an eye as to what's going on and hopefully add some value.
Yep. Okay. And if you're aware of other opportunities like that, where working groups are being formed around our topics of interest, please, bring those to us to consider and see how we can contribute. We are always looking for, ways to be more impactful. So, all right, you can go to the next slide. Okay, so now that we kind of have uploaded all the things that have been happening, I wanted to kind of ask a little bit more on some ideas on how we can share out these resources. Who do you think would be interested audiences? We're, on our list here are kind of our known entities, kind of directly in the field. Like I mentioned, the case studies already up on the XR Guild library. AMXRA, with Mark Zhang, they're always open to co-promoting these resources to build the field more effectively. VR for Health has done posts with us before, done interviews. MedVR is incubator or accelerator for technology development in this field, and they do a lot of webinars and so on. So they're one I'm considering reaching out to. Primers, who we developed the case studies with in the first place, and this is on a global organization for biomedical research ethics. So, but open to more suggestions, any other media groups or professional associations you think would want to co-promote? I should have added IVRA as well. It should be on there. Bob should be on there. Yeah. Any ideas? If they come to you, please share. If there's a point of contact you have, that'd be great. So, because it's the next coming weeks are kind of when we're putting these pieces together, and want to get this out effectively, because there's no point in building all these resources if no one reads them, right? Yeah.
That's a really good point. Maybe we could brainstorm a bit more on how to, how to really get all of this amazing work out to the larger ecosystem.
And
Yeah, no, this is great, Julia. So this is really important.
Oh, one, Julia, this MDIC, and I completely agree with Divya. We really need more, human intelligence here to like get things to really be distributed appropriately. MDIC is something that we are still part of, and keep a relationship there. However, not attending regular meetings, but I keep a good track of their agenda and what is the day to day and what's going on. And whenever it is relevant, I do go to their meetings to represent XRSI.
okay, so MDIC could be added to that. What about the UK XR Health Association, right? Sarah, is that still Sarah Tico's group?
That's right. In fact, they have something new that they are working on. Let me see if I can find. Valentina had shared a LinkedIn post, so I'll drop that in the chat. They're working on an effort, which is something depending, even people can support individually, but I think it's worth keeping on the radar.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm speaking to Sarah next week, so yeah, I can update on that. I think they'd be up for some collaboration on this and sharing.
Okay, that'd be fantastic. And you can share walk through the slide deck with her, to kind of give more context of where we are. That would be great. So like on my list of the list here, like the first four, right, are all kind of industry specific, technology specific, and then primer is broader on the medical ethics. I think one of the and we have circulated and communicated well within the XR community, and for some of these resources, I'm wondering how outside of that specific umbrella, what are other audiences and other groups that would be relevant? So MDIC, of course, but I feel like we could go another layer out, and I'm not quite sure what layer that is, but just wanting to think a little bit broader in terms of where this work is relevant, because I think honestly it is. It's in the sense of emerging technologies overall that are consumer facing or on the body. The principles we've kind of developed and tested here apply in those contexts too. So I'm going to be thinking about it from that perspective as well. Okay, so the two things that we're nearly ready to share out: the case studies. Oh, that one is ready. And then the other one being the global landscape on the policy. That one's almost ready. So if you think of places where those might want to go, I'd be happy to do webinars and so on the topic, if that helps. If they're like, I'll ask with MedVR if they would want something like that. So yeah, so I think that's where more of my focus is going to be on this year, is getting the word out for what we have created over the last 2 years. So yeah, and fundraising, that too. Right, Kavya? Okay, next slide.
They're always fundraising.
Yeah. Okay, so so the council membership, when you guys onboarded and when I got onboarded, like we all went through this document and are, probably haven't looked at it since, but just to remind us what our purpose is, how it's written in the membership fact sheet, is to contribute towards building a safe and inclusive medical XR ecosystem. And we're doing that actively. So that's just to reiterate what we're here for and not for other purposes. And then to go over what a council member responsibilities are. One thing we have added is a 2-year term. And Divya and Richard, you and Ryan, you guys have all been here longer than 2 years. So it's not that you're out, but we want to make sure that there is a finite period of time so that when someone comes in, they know they're going to be actively involved for 2 years, and then the point for renewal. So with some of the folks that have been inactive, basically those are folks who we've kind of cleared the roster. Those who have stayed active, we'll ask about renewal for everyone at the end of this year. So basically the question will go out in June. Do you want to continue being part of the council in a very impartial way? And we'll assess there so that we can kind of have a clean start with recommitments and then bringing in new commitments. So for those who have been around for a long time, that's the way we're going to work on the reset. And so then you don't feel like this is an indefinite thing that will go on forever, and then you have the awkward conversation of like, I really don't have time for this anymore, which we've had a few of those conversations where people do realize they literally don't have time. Not that they're not mission aligned, but they have other things going on. So that's kind of one of the big changes here. And just as reminders, what we do in our daily jobs, outside of this, is really being that leader in this field, and advocating for these things, safe and inclusive medical XR. The expectation of attending council meetings September to May, or at least if you can't attend, to stay aware and read the notes and go through the video or through the slide deck. To be involved in at least one project. And so that may be anything from writing a paper to contributing to Metaverse Safety Week, or giving a presentation at one of the council meetings on your work, like we did with Joe Morgan and his book and so on. Just at least one active deliverable per year. So that we have an active membership versus passive, and then guide and support development of the work products, so that providing feedback on the things others in the council have created and helping with the socialization and visualization of these things. And like I mentioned, we do have room to introduce new members. So if you have some ideas on people you think would really add to the collective intelligence of the group, we're open to that, and please send us suggestions. You can just email me directly. And Julia at XRSI.org works, Julia at MedXRSI works. So we have a few aliases now for that. Are there any questions about council membership? This is council membership for an individual, council membership for an organization. I should mention that. That is similar in concept. The main difference being, if it's a company or an organization, they're supposed to have two candidate representatives to be able to attend and contribute, rather than the individual, which is just you're working on on your own in this. So that's the main difference there, between the organizational and so on. And the data sheet on this has been finalized and will be shared out with the meeting minutes. Are there any questions on the council membership responsibilities? Okay. All right. Next slide. Okay, and then to reiterate like what these benefits are, as you're maybe communicating this to your colleagues, the way we see it, there's the opportunity to be affiliated with XRSI, which has a very strong reputation in the field, and that ability to be able to go do events, talks, and so on, as part of MedXRSI, as I, did this last year with VMed, where the work we presented there was basically the full collaboration between Santa Clara and XRSI and all the research work we have done. Like you're seeing here, getting early access to all of the work products, all of the deliverables here. We have Ready Hacker One, which is used for blog posts, interviews, opinion pieces, and so on. And if there's something you'd like to contribute there, just say the word, and we'll have that discussion. And you get to be around each other. I think that's one of the best parts when we did the survey last year. That was the aspect of being able to converse with the other council members was one of the strongest values. So that will always remain. Okay. And I think we can go next slide. We're almost there. Yeah. So that is pretty much everything. I'd like to talk a little bit more about the council membership, or you have some ideas on specific people or expertise you think we need. I've kind of done an assessment of what areas of the field we have covered, what types of expertise, and I can see some areas for growth. But I think we do have a good group as we are. Yeah, Divya.
Oh, sorry, I'm having a lot of problems with my bandwidth right now. Maybe I should just turn off my video.
Yeah, you can take off the camera.
Yeah, one of the things I was going to ask is how much closer are we to becoming a body that can really be considered I mean, I know that, all the frameworks, et cetera, I've been working towards creating some set of standards, but that we could actually become recognized as a body for issuing standards around, XR safety. Do you have a good sense of how that might evolve or progress?
It is evolving. And the RD is the main vehicle for that, because it puts into application the principles in all of these standards, everything that we have been working on in the past years, into something that that is a service for companies to evaluate their data governance. And Kavya, do you want to add to that on how the RDG is kind of the realization of the intellectual work of XRSI?
Yeah, for sure. So Divya, as you know, we've never really had a product per se to turn that into. We've always tried to speak the language of the industry, but this is necessary. This is the first time we've had a product that any big tech organization or large companies, large organizations, government or independent or entities, private entities can just ingest, but also provide turn this into more of a revenue generation model through Cotillari, which is the certifying body. Likewise, if and when MedXRSI independently chooses to operate the RDG healthcare specific use case, that can also be agreed upon and facilitated through various agreements. So we're just kind of starting out down that path. There will not be any announcements about the potential investments that are coming our way, but we have secured some amount for furthering the research in this area, and the privacy safety framework that used to be PSF is going to be responsible innovation framework. This is the first time I'm actually sharing it out. This has been an internal discussion, but responsible innovation framework and RDG will remain a part of that responsible innovation framework. And all of that already has been invested into. So there is a decent amount of investment that's coming through to us from some investors. For further research and for developing it out. So we have financial support and backing to at least take this to for next 2 years. But my hope is that before that, we will start to see at least 50 to 100 organizations already adopting the standard. The conversations are ongoing with the World Bank, Central European Bank. Our advisor is a chief information security officer there. And not to say that these are internal, but these are the reason these conversations stem from individuals that are rooted in XRSI because they truly understand the value and they truly understand the impact that it has in terms of trust as well as the responsibility that they have towards their potential users or stakeholders in terms of data governance. Regardless of what the current admin or anywhere around regulatory bodies say, if a company doesn't understand how they govern the data, they are gambling. And that's the very minimum premise that is now turned into this RDG will be spread out to broader context of safeguarding the whole ecosystem, turning it into responsible innovation framework, which the research is already ongoing. We just have to, package it differently, for which we have now decent amount of investment so we can do that. And I would love to, Divya, one-on-one share more with you because, some of these things are almost materialized, money hits the bank and then you feel more confident. So in a couple of weeks, I'll feel a lot more confident to share a lot more on those things.
So we'll go more into that at the October meeting.
I was also going to just ask if you guys, I'm thinking also, Julia, your question about our audience and are there any plans to perhaps align ourselves with any of the groups that are working in an adjacent space like, AI safety and innovation? And, I've got a lot of friendships with people who are sort of in the higher leadership positions of some of those orgs. I'm sure you guys all do. I'm wondering if maybe creating some kind of alliances or joint conferences or ways, to show the overlap. I mean,
Yeah.
constantly highlighting that in our work.
For the healthcare related AI conversations, I do want to have more of that crosstalk. And, kind of the next paper, on the regulatory side is going to be on that intersection between AI and XR. So I think building strong relationships with folks on that who are focused on the AI safety topic would be needed to move that forward. And talking in those circles, what I have found from my casual conversations, networking conversations, and so on, when I'm talking to those on the AI side, the focus is so much on just AI and data, like broadly, and not or AI in healthcare when it comes to like health records and diagnostics and traditional medical data, and they often see the XR component of it as too far in the future or not relevant to enough people to warrant their attention, or they still see it as something that is a gaming and social technology rather than a medical technology. And it does both. But I think as we approach people in the field on the AI side, we need to have a good communication strategy on why this is important, why this is relevant to keep in the conversation as they're thinking about AI safety. And this is the XR applications of AI are embodied AI. They are, in a sense, physical AI. And I think if we reframe it that way, we might get farther in those conversations. But I don't know, what's your impression with, with conversations of people who are AI focused?
I'm sorry, say that again at the last thing.
What is your impression of people's
Oh.
viewpoints on where XR fits in?
Yeah, it's not so much that they, I mean, the folks who work at the intersection see it, but I agree with you in terms of where the people in AI safety and where their heads at. But um, I still think that there's so much overlap in
Yeah.
terms of
Mhm.
perspectives that we could um, piggyback and on one another's work and amplify things. And if we become if we end up on their radar, I think that we could become included in these larger conversations that they're having. Everybody seems to care about AI, so this is sort of a way to, I think, to get on the global awareness map
Yeah.
in these
If
partnerships.
if there are specific people or organizations you think we should talk to or events to attend, please share out and we'll follow up on those suggestions. Yeah. All right. Um, are there any other questions or things to share before we sign off? We just have a couple minutes.
So one thing to follow on Divya's insight is, Divya, I think the opportunity is obviously there. Perhaps this could be a good way to, because we're currently working on RDG for Cityverse specifically. I am also preparing because we have a potential for a cohort with the Consulate General of Italy who runs Innovate in San Francisco. So we also have a potential for a cohort there, and for which I'm working on a use case for RDG for robotics, which also means, robotics and AI, because there isn't really any robotics that doesn't have AI intersection. So this type of verticals are already being pursued. And then there is the healthcare piece. We already talked to Mark Chang, who is our medical council member, and then of course Julia, myself. Like, I think it's worth uh, visiting your line of thought while we develop that vertical and a use case that will go to sit and be housed in MedXRSI in parallel with like whatever Cautelari offers initially as a certifying body. So we can certainly, I can set up a conversation, which I am pursuing with Mark as soon as he has time available. Um, I would love to involve you in developing that out. And then the thing that you're pointing out, that could be part of that strategy as we develop that use case vertical for healthcare use cases and the intersection of AI and XR. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And my only goal here is to see how much we can utilize our network and, piggyback on the captive
Mhm.
audience they already have to
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And if
increase
you
the
can
awareness of
inform
us.
us the language they would like to see, that will be ease, that will make the conversation and alignment easier from that perspective.
Yeah, and I can put something out to the group that I'm part of that is sort of an offshoot of the Atlantic Council, but includes a lot of people involved in AI safety. Um, and just see, like maybe we could put together a short blurb representative of, the council and its mission and goals, and I can put it out to this group and see if there are any people who want to collaborate with us in some way.
Yep,
Um,
yep. Yeah, we could be let me circle back with you. There is definitely a short, medium, long term here that can be pursued from your perspective.
yeah, and again, yeah, building on other people's relationships.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean that's the whole premise of collective human intelligence still being our strength,
Mhm.
because everybody is kind of spinning with this automation AI aspects, but they're not realizing that we got to first figure out the directions, the workflow, the data flow. All of these things are still not figured out, and you can't just automate the hell out of systems without understanding what's really going on.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah,
I also just want to, I know that Julie, you said just to separately email you, but Kavya, at the, which meeting were we at? Was it Human Tech Week or something?
Yeah.
And I introduced you to Tim Mullen. I just really
that's
would
right.
he's been working in the past so much on, this kind of these sorts of standards and things like that. I just like to formally at least nominate him or throw his name in for consideration. I just think he would bring a wealth of information
100%. Yeah.
in the past.
Yeah.
He's already been advising on, kind of one-on-one, but yeah, I do
Awesome.
pursue that
Okay.
sort of for formal advisory role for sure. Thanks for that. That was awesome.
Yeah, no. And he's a kind person, and his heart's exactly in the right place.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for coming today. Actually, I feel awful. I didn't properly introduce Utkarsh.
Oh yeah, we do that really
Oh
quickly.
my gosh.
Yes.
I'm so sorry.
No, I had a deal with Utkarsh. Utkarsh, you run this meeting well. We'll bring you in next time.
So Utkarsh has joined the operations team for XRSI and is supporting all of the kind of units of XRSI, but I've been working with him and Kavya and Alex is another new person to kind of make all of this run, getting the blog posts, advising on how we actually present things and the accountability. So Utkarsh is really welcome new member of the team, and I hope next time we'll be able to see more and you'll communicate with him more by email and on Slack. So yeah. All right. Okay, now I think we're really ready to sign off and we can move on with our days. And Kavya, I'll see you on the ops call right after this,
Yep.
right?
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks everyone.
Thanks all. Bye.